Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I love? Patreon.com/inkdependence, where patrons get access to a patron-only Discord, ad-free videos, and the joy of knowing they help support this channel. Hello folks, welcome to Ink Dependence. I'm Mike, and today I've got a cool pen to show you, and it comes in this case right here. This is from Arclayer, and this was a maker who was new to the DC Pen Show this year in 2025. My buddy Mark from Rickshaw was like, hey Mike, you gotta come see these pens, and I said, all right, let's go. And so he showed me to this table that I had completely missed somehow of really cool 3D printed pens, and these are pretty rad. This is the pen case box situation. It is also 3D printed, of course, and there is a QR code here that you can click if you want to, go to all their sites for the Arclayer company. There we go. This unscrews like this, and I took the pin out. Obviously, there's a little piece of foam in there to keep it from banging around inside there. But this is a very fun case. You can just put it on the table, and it'll just like screw itself closed. That's really neat. Inside the case, you'll find your pen. This is my my Arclayer that I bought at the DC Pen Show. I want to say it was like 60 or 80 bucks. I cannot remember off the top of my head what it was. That was a few months ago, but it was a really good price, I think, for this pen. This feels really solid. So there are a few things I want to do in this video. The first is I want to talk through this pen. The next is I want to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter action that's going on that will be starting on the 9th of December. And lastly, I'm gonna off camera clean this out and see what that takes and how hard it is, because with all these little spirals and all this jazz in here, it might be hard to clean out. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't think it's gonna be too bad, but it could be. So I'm gonna let you know. I haven't cleaned this one out yet. I've been just using it. So let's take a look at the pen here first. Firstly, you have the cap and the back, the finial down here, the bottom finial, I guess. The end cap? I don't know what you call it on this case. These are both in purple, but this is all resin 3D printed. None of this is turned acrylic, and I actually thought it was, because this just feels like turned and polished acrylic. It's got that solid rigidity to it that you sometimes don't get with 3D printed gear, but it feels really cool. In fact, I have a little video over here that they sent me of these coming out of the tank. They're printed in a tank. I don't know how it works. That is a mystery. It seems like magic, but it works really well. These are the little spirals in here, this DNA action. There were several different varieties of this kind of pen at the show from Arclayer. They had ones that had like an hourglass thing with like these air channels going up the side, which I thought was brilliant. There was just a spiral one instead of the DNA Helix. There were several, and this Kickstarter is going to have 5 different ones plus a couple of cool options. So there will be lots of availability of different patterns in case you are not a big fan of the DNA Helix for some reason. But I think this is really neat. It's a little bit hard to show the ink going through the spirals there from the top-down camera, but it does look really cool. There's also not a huge amount of ink left in here now. I have been using this for a little while, but these spirals are really neat. As you can see there, these have the little steppy bits in them, which kind of, say 3D printer, but this is the only one that really does. And so I think it's actually purposeful, showing those little building blocks perhaps of the DNA. I think that's pretty neat, and gives a cool effect. The other thing I want you to notice is the little steps in between each of these double helici. Helici? I'm gonna go with that. That's also a air/ink channel, and so that means you don't get air or ink just stuck into place here. It lets the fluids move, which is pretty neat, and I think that's a really good idea. I was really impressed with the hourglass one. It has like this big hourglass thing in the middle, and then it has these 2 air channels going up the side so that they can have that gas exchange, and so you can get the ink to the nib. I haven't really had any problems with this drying out or anything like that. The cap works very well. Using my little possum here, let's see how many turns we need to take to take the cap off. There's 1, 2 possums. So 2 turns to take the cap off. It's perfectly cromulent. No inner cap here. I did have this dry out a little bit when I just left it in my drawer for a couple of weeks without using it, which isn't terribly surprising. Like I said, I'm actually, and you can see, I'm actually getting real low on ink on here. And I think it was just kind of like, it was just sitting in my drawer or whatever like this. And so there was no ink hitting the feed. And so it dried out just a little bit. It wasn't a big deal. I put a couple of little drops of water right here on the slit of the nib. near the breather hole and just like sucked those in, and then I had no problems, rehydrated. The other thing that I've had happen once or twice is I think there's been like an air bubble right here, and so because the ink chamber here is not one continuous block, sometimes a little bubble can get trapped down there. It wasn't really a problem though. I just kind of went like this. Like you'd tap a syringe or something, and the bubble traveled, and then I had ink again. It was no big deal. But that can happen, so don't freak out if it does. Just give it a little bit of a tap, and you'll be back in business. No problem at all. I think it works really well. Actually, it's far better than the last 3D printed pen that I had from years and years ago. So it's beating it there. The inside here, you have a section that holds a nib. These are Yovo number 6 nibs for the ones that he was using or selling rather in DC. The Kickstarter is going to have the endless house-made nibs, like you'd find the endless Captiva and some others like that. The section here, of course, has an O-ring right in there. You put a little bit of silicone grease here, and at the top of the nib housing inside there, and that'll keep ink from getting out of the pen at all. Of course, this hasn't leaked or done any burping or anything weird like that. It's been very well behaved, and I do have kind of hot hands, and so sometimes with eyedropper pens, I do get a lot of heat transfer into the ink chamber, and that can cause the air in there to expand a little bit, and that'll push ink out of the tip of the pen. It'll make it burp is what we call it. You get like a little blurp, and like it'll just like spit a little bit of ink on your page, and that's not great. I don't love that, but I haven't had any problems with that with this. So I think this material is doing really well with the heat exchange. It's not like heating up the air chamber too much. So I think that help this go. Helped it? I think it helps it go well. Now the back here looks like it unscrews, and it does in fact unscrew, but that's just a post for this finial to post on, or rather to screw down to. That doesn't open up the back of the pen or anything like that, so no need to worry about that. All right, so that is that's the pen there. Let me give you a few stats on this thing. So with the cap on, we are looking at a weight of 0.8 ounces or 23 grams and a length of 5.59 inches or 142 millimeters. So this is I think a perfectly fine length for a pen that's going to go in your pocket and that sort of thing. This doesn't have a cap, or rather a clip, but there are several models that do have clips and that sort of thing. With the cap off, we are looking at a weight of 0.6 ounces or 17 grams and an uncapped length of 5.28 inches or 134 millimeters, which is, 8 millimeters shorter than with the cap on. So the cap is really not adding very much length to this pen at all, and it does fit well in my hand. For references on that weight there, in case you're not like certain what half an ounce or 17 grams weighs, a TWSBI Eco with the cap off weighs about 12 grams. So this is just slightly heavier than a TWSBI Eco, and it's it's a very solid kind of pen. It's got a little bit of heft to it, which is really nice for this sort of thick, durable plastic feel that you've got going on here. As far as how it sits in my hand, I have fairly large hands, but it fits in my hand perfectly. I don't have any problems with that at all. And the diameters for the section here are between 10.8 and 11.6 millimeters. It does get wider back here toward the back, a little skinnier up front, but that's right in my comfort zone of like 10 to 11, 12 millimeters. That's really where I like the section to be in terms of diameter, and this hits that perfectly. Let's look at this next to some other pens. Okay, so here we are next to a bunch of other pens. We have here a Retro 51, because why not? It's kind of cold outside. It's threatening to snow, so I broke out the Card Party Cardinals pen. This here is a Lamy Safari, of course. We have our TWSBI Eco, our Arclayer, a Pelikan M200, and then this is one of the new Benu Tessera pens. Nope, Benu Hot pens. And I think this is kind of like right in that same zone with most of the other pens when the cap is on. Very normal size pen. Let's take these caps off and see how this looks. Okay, there we go. With the caps off, it is pretty much the same length as the rest of these, aside, of course, from our little M200 here. This is a pretty small pen by most accounts, just a skosh longer than the Eco or the Safari, just a little bit shorter than the Hot, which is the same size as like Euphoria and a bunch of those other sorts of pens from Benu. So lots of pens here to compare it to, and it's right in the same range as most of the pens that you're going to be comfortable writing with. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and do a little bit of writing sample. Now, keep in mind, I have been waving this around with the cap off for a little while, so we'll see how it writes. This is just some endless paper. It's what I had around for this, but it's also very convenient because that's who's doing this Kickstarter. All right, let's get going. This is a broad nib. And I have no problems there. It is definitely delivering enough ink without overflowing the nib or anything like that. This is the Franklin-Christoph DC 2025 ink from that pen show. Good flow, good match to the barrel color, I think. And like I said, I haven't really had any problems with this thing drying out. It happens if you leave it long enough just sitting on the side with hardly any ink in it, but otherwise it's been really, really well behaved, I think. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter. I'm going to throw some images up over here on the side. This Kickstarter will begin on December 9th. I don't know what time it's going to kick off, but I do have a link down below that you can follow, and it'll let them know that you saw this Kickstarter information here on my channel and not somewhere else. It doesn't really get me anything else, but it just kind of lets them have some data, which is, I guess, kind of fun. And you can sign up to be notified when that thing goes live, or it'll just take you to the Kickstarter once it's rolling. This Kickstarter is called the Maze. Kickstarter, M-A-Z-E, maze, like that. And there are going to be 5 pens in terms of the interior design here. Lots of different ones. I've got a picture of them over here for you. And also, I just recently learned there's going to be an option to have some of these be Japanese eyedroppers, which is really interesting. And I think it's a pretty cool way to do this. And there are going to be a couple of them that will have, let's see, do I have one of these around here somewhere? Here we go. So this little Opus 88 mini pen, which is also completely dried out, no ink left, just a little bit of shimmer. The Japanese eyedroppers work with an end cap that you can unscrew. And then as you can see right here, there's a little piston rod here, but it's not really a piston, it's just a rod, and it has a stopper on the end. And so what this lets you do is when you tighten this down, it will close off the section of the pen, and so it won't dry out. You can fly with it, shake it around, throw it in your purse or bag or whatever, and you don't have to worry about this thing burping ink out of the nib. It's just going to be closed off, and you'll only have the ink that's in the feed to write with. That does mean that if you don't remember to unscrew this a little bit, you're not going to have any ink getting to your feed. So don't forget about that. But that's a pretty common thing with these kinds of pens. I think it's neat that they're going to offer it as a Japanese eyedropper and make this even more reliable for, just throwing in your bag or flying or whatever use you want to put it to. So I think that's a pretty cool addition. Now, I haven't seen the prices for the Japanese eyedropper version. That's probably what I will back because that seems neat. I don't have one yet, so I'm into that. But I've really been enjoying this pen that I have here. I don't really have any big quibbles with it. And I think the price that I paid, which is somewhere probably, I forget, it was like $80, maybe $100. It was whatever full price was at the DC Pen Show. I think the Kickstarter prices are going to be around 80-ish as well, at least to begin with, for like early birds and that kind of stuff. So if you're into it, I'd say, go for it. This is pretty darn cool. There will be lots of nib sizes available. They're not going to be using Yovo in this one, so this writing sample doesn't help with the Kickstarter necessarily, but they will be using the same nibs that were in the Endless Captiva, and I think the Captiva's nib is really nice, and that one had a bunch of different like wild nibs, like triple broads and I don't know, architects and stuff like that were available. So maybe we'll see that with these. I have no inside information on that, so I don't know, but it is at least possible since they're using those nibs. That could be kind of cool. So, check out the Kickstarter for details and all that jazz. All right, now I'm going to be back in just a few minutes for you it'll be instantly, but I'm going to go and clean this out and see how that goes, and I'll be back to report. Okay, so the curtain fell, time passed, at least a little bit, not actually that much. This was an easy clean out, and here it is. I'll put a picture over here of what it looked like before, and here it is now. You might be saying, like, wow, it looked like it got stained teal. No, it was already teal. Like I said, it was teal and purple, kind of jokery colors there, but the ink cleaned out of this thing with no problem at all. You can see there's a little bit, like a few flecks of water still in there, but not much. This was actually very easy. So all I do to clean this is you unscrew the section here, which I couldn't do for you before because it was full of ink. There will be a little bit of silicone grease here on these threads. And then in here where you would, housing, you want to put a little bit of grease up there. But yeah, I just took this off and I rinsed this under some water and I blasted it out with a syringe. Or a nasal aspirator thing, you just poke it in there and go squoonch, or whatever you do. You can also just unscrew this this housing and just clean it as you normally would. It's a very standard sort of situation. Just don't lose that little O-ring there, and you'll be fine. So yeah, very. Actually, you can see this is a little bit translucent. I didn't even know that. How about that? So yeah, no problems there. This is a very easy clean to clean out the body, all I did was get my my syringe with a blunt needle on it. You can buy those on my site. My store has a bunch of those. I sell them, or wherever else. You probably have one in your kit. And I just fill it with water, and I sort of put the needle like in one of these little, I don't know, these two openings that are right here, and I just blasted water through there, kind of this way, and then I sort of tilted it up this direction and squirted water up this way, and just like squirted up, and it was coming down and out the other hole. I just did that a little bit until it was clear, and then I just gave it a really good shake, and that's all I did to dry it out, was just shake it real good. That's all that was needed. And there is a little bit of water, like I said, still in those double helixes, but just a little bit. That was pretty good. I've had converters that are harder to clean than this, honestly. So that's pretty impressive. And it is currently December, and I put ink in this in August. So the first time I inked it was in August. I did put a little bit extra. I think I topped it off at some point in between, but this holds a fair amount of ink, even with this broad nib. And that teal didn't stain it at all. It's a teal barrel. Real easy to clean out. I was surprised. Yeah, there you go. I think this is an easy pen to recommend. It's good in the hand. It writes well. It looks super cool, especially with some ink in it. And I just think this is really well made, and good job to Arclayer out there. And it's cool that Endless wanted to do a Kickstarter with them. So I'm going to probably get in that Kickstarter. I'm certainly going to get in that Kickstarter. What am I even talking about? And, I encourage you to as well. Follow this link down below and let them know that you came from here when you go and check out that Kickstarter. Let me know what you think about these down in the comments. Do you have one of these? Did you get one at DC? Did you buy one afterwards from the Arclayer websites and such? Let me know, because I'm curious. I think these are really good. So, really good job, Arclayer. Very cool. All right, I'll see y'all in another video soon. Until then, think about what you put out in the world, and hey, make it a better place. Peace out, everybody.